Welcome to Learn About Law. My name is Kevin O'Flaherty from O'Flaherty Law, and today we're going to talk about aggravated DUIs. I'm going to explain the difference between a misdemeanor DUI and an aggravated felony DUI, and then we're going to go over different factors that can lead a regular DUI to turn into an aggravated DUI. So first, what's the difference between a regular DUI and an aggravated DUI? Your run-of-the-mill normal DUI is a Class A misdemeanor. It's punishable with a maximum sentence of 1 year in prison. Now, if there's a DUI that also has some aggravating factors, things like driving on a suspended license, a fatality that are involved, and we're going to go over these in detail, that regular DUI can turn into an aggravated DUI. It becomes a felony with a maximum sentence of greater than 1 year in prison. It's got a minimum sentence of 10 days in jail and 480 hours of community service. The sentence varies based on the aggravating factors that are involved. And on our website, learn-about-law.com, we have an article that lists all of the different various sentences and goes into a little bit more detail, so you can check that out. Let's talk about the different factors that can cause a regular DUI to turn into an aggravated DUI. So first is prior DUI violations. This is one of the most common factors. So your first two DUIs, if there aren't any other aggravating factors, are misdemeanors. Your third DUI and every DUI after that is a felony aggravated DUI. Driving while your license is suspended or revoked for certain reasons. Now what's important here is that anytime your license is suspended or revoked and you get a DUI isn't necessarily going to turn it into an aggravated DUI. It's got to be suspended or revoked for certain specific reasons. Those reasons are a prior DUI, leaving the scene of an accident involving death or personal injury, driving under a prior summary suspension, or reckless homicide. So if it's suspended or revoked for one of those reasons and you get a second DUI, or a first DUI and it's suspended for one of those reasons, then it's going to be an aggravated DUI. Next, we have driving without a valid driver's license. This is often a problem with illegal immigrants. They think they don't have the ability to get a driver's license, but illegal immigrants can get a driver's license if they go through the proper procedure. So if you don't have a valid driver's license, driving permit, restricted driving permit, or judicial driving permit, and you get a DUI, then it's going to be an aggravated DUI. Driving without valid insurance. The key here is that the driver has to have known or should have known that the vehicle wasn't insured when they get a DUI for driving without valid insurance. So the prosecution has to prove something in law that we call mens rea, which is basically the state of mind of the driver, which can often be difficult to prove. Accidents resulting in great bodily harm is another way you can get an aggravated DUI. So there's got to be great bodily harm involved, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement. The tricky thing here is what's the definition of great bodily harm? Permanent disability or disfigurement is pretty easy, but great bodily harm is a little bit of a gray area that can be argued about at trial. Accidents causing a fatality. In this case, unlike accidents involving great bodily harm, the driver must be at least partially at fault. So accidents involving great bodily harm, it doesn't matter who's at fault. But in order to get convicted of a charge of aggravated DUI for an accident causing a fatality, the driver actually has to be at fault. That's because the sentence is more severe for that. The sentence will be different depending on how many fatalities are involved, but regardless of how many fatalities are involved, it still counts as one felony. Accidents resulting in bodily harm to a minor under the age of 16. So the distinction we want to draw here is that if you get into an accident involving bodily harm and the person who's harmed is under the age of 16, the bodily harm doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to cause permanent disability or disfigurement. Any bodily harm will do if the person's under the age of 16. If they're over the age of 16, it's got to be great bodily harm in order for it to turn into an aggravated DUI. Driving in a school zone. So there's a couple important things to note here. If for the aggravating factor to take effect, the speed limit of 20 miles an hour or less has to be in effect at the time that the DUI happens, and some bodily harm has to occur. So it doesn't have to be great bodily harm, because it's kind of like minors under the age of 16. Any bodily harm will do, but you have to be driving while the speed limit's in effect and cause some sort of bodily harm. You don't have to be driving over the speed limit in order for the DUI to be aggravated. Driving a school bus with at least one passenger under the age of 18 will be an aggravated DUI. A second DUI while transporting a minor under the age of 16 is an aggravated DUI, and also a second DUI after a previous conviction for an alcohol-related homicide offense is an aggravated DUI. So again, go to learn-about-law.com to check out our article on this. We've got a lot more detail, and we've got the sentences for each of these factors. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Click the subscribe button for new videos every week and download and review us on iTunes. Visit learn-about-law.com for other legal-related articles and videos. Visit our business podcast and video blog, seizeyourbusiness.com, and visit makingrealestatefun.com for real estate videos and podcasts. Call us at 630-324-6666 for a free consultation.